Okay, I think we are finally ready. We neutralized the nearby biter nests, we claimed a nice plot of land to build a factory, we claimed a cozy patch of all different resources within our borders, and we just finished protecting all remaining resource patches outside the base from biter expansion using littering pipes and biter expansion party triggering gun turrets. It is finally time to build a base. It's gonna be out with the old yellow belts, as we will exclusively use the new double-speed red belts. You only need iron to make these, so it's quite easy to automate next to any iron belt. Keep in mind though, it will take up most or all of the iron you route past it, so grant it access to iron wisely, so you don't starve out the rest of your base. For instance, you can use a priority splitter. And now the very early game planning of the furnace area pays off. In preparation of upgrading the base to the double capacity red belts, we fill in the second half of the furnace area, finding a new use for the space where originally our starter ore patches were located. Nice! Now, before we actually build a new base, we first need to make sure it can be powered, so let's work on that first. The uranium mine has eaten through its first 800 barrels of sulfuric acid, and those 800 barrels reliably turn into approximately a full chest of dark green rocks, plus 30 something of the important shiny green rocks. $800 barrels is a convenient number, because it's exactly one car inventory full, and we can just park the car under the inserter to automatically start refilling the barrels. We also took 20 of our shiny green rocks to turn into our first batch of 200 nuclear fuel cells. Nuclear power plants consist of 4 main parts, and instead of handcrafting the entire nuclear power plant like a pleb like last time, this time let's pretend we know how this game works and use these 4 assemblers to prepare all the parts. Since all the parts are quite expensive and I happen to know exactly how many parts I need for my design, we will control the amount of resources the assemblers have access to by hand. For instance, my design uses 230 heat pipes, which equates to 4600 copper and 2300 steel. We make the same chips for the 96 turbines, the 48 heat exchangers, and of course the 4 nuclear reactors themselves, for which we need another 2000 concrete. As we already were completely out of stone bricks, as we turned them all into replacement walls for the bots, I turned my last few chests of stashed raw stone into stone bricks, so we could make concrete for the reactors. We need to go and get that new stone mine up and running before we run out of replacement walls, or else the biters will soon stream into the base. Alright, let's not panic just yet. The nuclear power plant is being assembled, which is the first step towards solving all our problems. So while we wait for those assemblers to finish, let's go out and build that new stone mine, eh? We should be able to get about a yellow belt of stone from this mine, which is plenty for a steady stream of walls, as well as some concrete and a couple military science projects. Once we start with purple science though, this single stone mine will start to struggle severely. Anyway, since we have access to electric furnaces now, we may as well smelt stone bricks on site. And not before long we can draw both stone belts back to the base. And after 25 hours of gameplay, we finally fully automate the production of the high-tech product of stone walls? Really? Okay then. Anyway, did I ever mention how ridiculously cheap flamethrower oil is? No? Never? Alright, I'll tell you all about it. This flamethrower has been sprouting burning oil non-stop for hours and hours. We have 2 more of those eternally firing flamethrowers, as well as non-stop attack on the walls due to biter base proximity. Still, we are using only about 24 oil per second for all of that fuel, which is an order of magnitude less than the oil demands of a starter base at the blue technology phase, like this one. Anyway, earlier we concluded that we failed to claim the coal peninsula, but let's try to sneak by and go extract it anyway. Now, I did read your many comments about using landfill, and while that's indeed a perfectly legal and non-cheating way to use landfill, personally I dislike using landfill for purely strategic purposes. Like in this case, using a thin strip of landfill to access the coal bypasses the spirit of the entire concept of this challenge with indestructible biter bases. They are supposed to be in the way. Anyway, we may actually have just enough space to extract and transport out the coal without using landfill. We can use the big electric power poles to span the power lines across the water. And this water gap can just about be bridged by a red underground belt. Underwater belt? Teleporting belt? Don't ask me, some physics work different here on the planet of Novice. Anyway, eventually we successfully snaked the coal belt up past our laser biter zoo. And as we don't need the coal for our base just yet, we just start storing it into a giant array of buffer chests. The problem here is that we can only fit a handful of coal miners on that small coal patch, so the rate of extraction will be really slow. But I foresee we will need large amounts of coal to turn into supplement oil later. So by getting a large head start on the slow coal extraction process, we can avoid the rate of extraction becoming an early bottleneck later on. In practice, that means production over time wise, it'll be almost as if we had started the advanced coal liquefaction into oil process already from this point in time, despite the tech still being miles away. At the home base, all of our starter ore patches have run out, except for the coal patch, so we are going to make a similar buffer system for the starter coal patch. In the meantime, the base has produced plenty of red belts, so after quickly handcrafting some red undergrounds and splitters, we can upgrade the entire home base to red belts. In that meantime, the nuclear reactor assemblers are done as well, and we can start finding a place to place our plant. This plot of land right next to the laser zoo here seems to exactly fit our design, and the water supply is right down there on the coast. For this playthrough, I'm using the exact same design as in my last series, and while the belt system is a bit convoluted as opposed to the slightly more difficult outserter wiring setup, it still results in the same 100% fuel efficient design. I'm not going to explain how the entire reactor works again, but let me just mention that it is great to have a 100% fuel efficient design as your first nuclear reactor. Since we are still using less than 10% of this reactor's capacity, starting off with a fuel-saving design drastically reduces fuel consumption, and with our initial 200 fuel cells, we won't need to spend a single moment worrying about our power for at least 12 hours. Anyway, since this time we have locations that rely solely on powered laser turrets, it is a good idea to have a backup power supply in case we accidentally disconnect our nuclear plant. So this time we will keep the steam engine setup intact and ready to go. It won't be enough to power our entire base in the future, but as laser turrets get first dibs on power, it will hopefully keep all the biters inside of their zoos. Anyway, we don't need the accumulator bank anymore to deal with laser turret power spikes, as by overbuilding steam turbines in the reactor and utilizing a steam buffer tank, we effectively integrated the accumulator functionality in the nuclear power plant itself. But we do keep one accumulator next to the steam power plant. This accumulator won't be used ever, hopefully, but if the nuclear reactor fails for some reason, the accumulator will drop to 0% in seconds, so we wire the burner inserters to input fuel if the accumulator drops below 50%. Anyway, while we were looking at the nuclear plant, the biters quickly expanded behind our backs right onto our power line. Hopefully they'll leave it alone. But with power sorted, we can finally start building our long-desired high-tech base. And what better way is there to start a new base than to give our holy tree the central spot? Science can only bring us so far this playthrough. We will need some truly religious miracles to rain down destruction on those claiming to be indestructible. So let's take good care of our savior tree of wisdom. Not only will we offer it all the wood we find to grow the tree, we will also supply it with a fresh source of holy water. The tree give it and the tree take it, but as the first miracle, the tree take it away an hour of my time. Somehow I got tricked into spending way too much time on designing this area, for which many of the recipes aren't even unlocked yet. All the while the biters made new expansions and the biter revolution creeps ever closer to the dangerous behemoth biters. So let's first focus on building the base part of the base, shall we? Let's start by taking down the bane of an automated base, temporary setups like these ones. And after 28 hours of gameplay, we finally have to clean up the scraps and the spaceship. Just kidding, of course we are gonna keep this giant annoying spaceship right here in the middle of my base. Anyway, it is time to lay out a sort of main bossy style array of belts. But there is no reason to redo everything from scratch. We will simply keep the old starter base operational, which will keep producing the first 4 science packs. We will, however, need to supply our future logistics bots with much larger quantities of the different intermediate products like iron gears, as well as green circuits, so those make a great start to the new main boss. Of course, bots cannot take from simple steel chests, so we upgraded to logistics chests instead. And that's iron gears and green circuits done. The 2 cornerstones on which a lot of more advanced recipes are built on. The oil stuff is a lot more location independent, so we simply add sulfur and plastics to the boss from their current location, as well as coal, stone and bricks. Nice! With these 10 basic ingredients, we are ready to make everything we need to progress to the more advanced science packs. Like red chips. Now, if there's anything more important in Factorio than green chips, it's gotta be red chips. Not only are they needed in all 4 of the most advanced science packs, they are also an ingredient in tons of other useful buildings and weapons. I have never heard someone complain that they overbuilt red chips, so let's go large. Anyway, our main problem here is not gonna be underbuilding assemblers. On the contrary, with indestructible biter bases, our total raw resource intake is going to be severely limited. And once we claimed all that we can possibly claim, the resource flow is only gonna be shrinking every hour. Already our single copper line is being spread very thin between the old base, green chips and the newly added red chips. So let's cut the old base from that equation. I transferred all the buffers and deleted the old base's buffer chest. Now it will only consume copper if we are actively researching technologies. Another thing we can do to stretch the lifetime of our ore patches and our base is putting productivity modules in every machine that will take them. These modules are quite cheap, but they come with a sizable side effect though. Now that we have nuclear power, at least we don't need to worry about their immense power cost. But they are also a huge polluter, ramping up the biter attacks and the biter evolution speed. So naturally we ignore all of that and make a select amount of productivity module Mark IIs, with all the aforementioned effects but even stronger. Bad side effects or not, we will need to make the most out of our limited resources, so for now our goal is to put at least productivity module Mark Is in every single machine that will take them. This will mess up the correct ratios of the assemblers, but it's Factorio. Who cares about ratios anyway, am I right? And for a measly 8% productivity bonus, the assemblers are now outputting twice as much pollution and using nearly twice as much power. The most expensive recipes will receive productivity module Mark IIs, like these blue chip assemblers. These assemblers now produce 12% extra blue chips out of thin air, at the cost of generating almost 3 times more pollution per blue chip created. Now we just need to take the sulfuric acid pipeline from the old base and plug it into the bag. Soon the blue chips are rolling down the belt. Well, at least until the backlog dries up. And that's the 3 different types of circuits done. Of course, the labs receive the productivity module Mark IIs as well. They are the single most important entities to module up, as they are the final step in the research process. The 12% research bonus on the labs alone will reduce the resource cost on every single production step before, all the way down to the miners extracting ore. Modules are not only useful for machines though, so here we are making 25 each of the Mark II speed module and efficiency module for a yet undisclosed purpose. Hey, they are ready! Let's store them into our logistic trash slots for now, while we still can use them that way. Meanwhile, the home coal buffer has done its job, and we have slowly but surely cleared out the entire starter coal patch. That's a good sign for our future coal liquefaction plants, as the first oil source has dropped all the way to its minimum infinite production state. Even after adding the Mark II speed modules, this whole oil field can only barely support a single refinery now. Anyway, with blue chips, that's one of the 3 ingredients for yellow science out of the way. So let's work on the next one, low density structures. While they seem equally expensive to the blue chips at first glance, they are actually about half the cost, so we'll stick with the much more affordable productivity module ones for these. And the final yellow science ingredient is bot frames, which is probably the most complicated large-scale ingredient in Factorio. Bot frames require 4 different ingredients. 2 of them require some type of oily fluid, and the electric engines require normal engines, which require pipes and iron gears. So that's quite a program. Anyway, we spaghetti snake it all together and somehow out come the bot frames. That means we can finally do a quick hand feeding for the first few hundred yellow science packs. We won't need to rebuild the setup, later we can supply them with logistics bots. Of course, the expensive science recipes also get fitted with the expensive Mark II productivity modules. Which means that every 100 science packs worth of ingredients now turns into over 125 science packs of research technologies. Anyway, soon the first yellow science packs are produced. And as they reach the labs, let's select the first few highly shiny techs on our list. Of course, we want the highly desirable Power Armor Mark II, and suddenly it becomes clear why we needed the Mark II speed and efficiency modules. And of course, let's not forget about the thing I've been complaining about for a while now. We can finally upgrade the super slow bot speed to something more acceptable. Now that may open up some new options regarding dealing with the larger biter nests which are wreaking havoc all over my base. But first of all, we are going for an early logistics system, so I can supply the assembly area with bots, as well as fully automate yellow and purple signs using logistics bots instead of belts. Slowly the base is taking shape. All different kind of shapes. We've got an early spaghetti starter base for the first 4 science packs, a sort of main bus system for most of the intermediate products including the yellow science ingredients, and a soon-to-be hyper-modern bot-based assembly area, where we will also make the purple science ingredients, as well as all of the soon-to-be unlocked state-of-the-art military experiments, which we can then try out on the biters with varying amounts of success, I'm sure. We will just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. A whole new horizon of biter problems is awaiting us, and I for one cannot wait to find out how it all will go. Next time.